The Believe in NFL Draft Prospect podcast. This is an interview edition bringing you an in-depth look into some of the best football players in the entire country. No matter what level they play on, we're going to find some of the absolute stars who not only dominate the college football level, but also will have an opportunity to take their game to the next level. I actually reached out to this guest right after his 2019 season at Lindenwood University's linebacker Drew Seers, after he posted 170 plus tackles and 17 tackles for loss in just 13 games for Lindenwood. And obviously, you know, for you mathematicians out there, that's a lot of tackles per game, to say the least. It's a fantastic football season. I was excited about Drew for the 2021 NFL draft before COVID cancellations obviously cost not only his school, but the entire level for the most part this season. So welcome in Drew Seers to the show here. Drew, appreciate you again, man. Taking a little bit of time. How's everything been, brother?
Everything's good, man. I appreciate you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, Drew. So I really want to kind of run this, man. I'm going to have to ask about pandemic and season getting canceled at some point, but I want to run this as a complete kind of scope of your career a little bit. So I went back to, you know, just some of the accomplishments that you had as a high school senior, going back to Parkway West. Of course, you're a Missouri guy originally. So I wanted to ask a little bit about you, because I know you were all-state linebacker, all-state punter. So obviously you did a lot of things, also played on offense as well. So you did a lot of things for your high school. So just give me a little brief into your high school career and how you ended up at Lindenwood.
Yeah, so in high school, man, high school was a fun experience. Parkway West actually was known to not be a great program for a while. And, my class was the class coming up that we were looked at to kind of change things around. And into my junior year, we went 500 and got, I believe, to the district championship, something close. And then senior year, we won the district championship and went to the first round of the playoffs or whatever, or the quarterfinals. And, high school was a great experience. That I got to play pretty much everywhere that I could have dreamed of on offense. And I even got to kick. I've been kicking since I was like in 5th grade. I was just the one guy who could put it through the uprights every once in a while. So I kind of stuck with that all the way through high school, and I would punt and do kickoffs and all that. And, they just kind of used me wherever they needed me. And I enjoyed pretty much never coming off the field and just trying to do everything I can to help my team win. And so I really enjoyed that. Unfortunately, I don't get to touch the ball as much anymore, if ever, but, it's all good. But yeah, so coming out of high school, I wanted to go to obviously D1 program like a lot of people do. And everyone thinks they're D1 bound until you get into the recruiting. You really see who's talking to you. And, I had some walk-on opportunities at like Mizzou and Iowa State, but kind of throughout that whole process, I saw how walk-ons were treated, and you start at the bottom. You got to work your way all the way to the top. And, I was willing to do that, but, I just kind of stuck out for a while and just see my other options. And Lindenwood was a school that they kept reaching out to me and kept asking me to like come on a visit, and they just were very persistent. And, I already told my head coach, I'm like, I don't want to stay in state, much less 25 minutes down the road. I don't want to go to Lindenwood. So I told them no. And then they got a new coaching staff, and they were aware that I didn't want to go there. And they just kept hitting me up. And then finally my head coach at high school was like, just sit down and talk with them. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll do that. And within like 15 minutes, 30 minutes of them sitting down with me, like they almost had me ready to sign at that school. So that was kind of a crazy experience. Just I had to stick it out, and rather than jumping the gun and signing some school early on. But they recruited me more as a person rather than trying to sell me their school. And, I saw the authenticity in it just in who they were. So I really gravitated towards that, and I'm like, you know what, I want to go there. So I waited till after signing day and ended up signing with Lindenwood, like I think 2 weeks or so after signing day. But yeah, I don't regret the decision whatsoever. So
Yeah, well, I was going to ask, man, because that's a fantastic story, but obviously it's worked out for you, to say the least. All-American in 2019, and I'm sure you've had a lot of great experiences. How has that grown now from, hey, like maybe I didn't really want to go here, but now kind of looking back on it, how special the place is that has Lindenwood become for you?
Man, like I said, I don't regret it. And coming into Lindenwood, Lindenwood was kind of in the same position that my high school was in when we got there. Lindenwood went, 3-8 forever. They were kind of a losing program, and When I got to Lindenwood, all that recruiting process, all that go D1 stuff went out the window. It was, I'm here now and I'm ready to turn this program around and work. And, obviously I was with the first season that the coaching staff was in. I was in their first season as well. And, we went 4-7 my freshman year and then went 4-7 my sophomore year. So we were really just struggling and trying to find what we would. The coaching staff, however, never lost sight of where they wanted to go. And they were like, we're going to turn this around. It's going to take a while. And we were locked in and we were a part of it. And then you saw this past year in my junior year, we went, I think, 9-4 and able to get to the second round of the playoffs. So, we're turning that thing around and we're looking to take it even further all the way if we can this year. So, we've really changed the culture and the program at Lindenwood, and we're looking to do big things this year.
And Drew, I was just looking, just kind of at the box score a little bit for you of what you've accomplished. I mean, so you play as a freshman, obviously, a good amount, and then you have the 96 tackles, 12.5 tackles for loss, which is a fantastic season. But I want to talk about that next year. You talk about the 2019 season where not only did the team turn it around and become, the winning record for the first time in a few years, but also you have what is, in my opinion, I mean, I'm looking at some of the seasons that people have recorded on your level, and this is one of the historical tackle seasons in the history of Division II football. Like, this isn't just like one of the best in Lindenwood history. Like, this is 175 tackles and 17 tackles for loss, a part of obviously a 9-4 season, like you said, in the second round of the playoffs. Talk to me a little bit about the improvements that you have had. Not only being just a very good player in 2018, but then turning into one of the elite players on your level from sophomore to junior year.
Yeah, I think the big difference between my first 2 years in college and my junior year is just kind of understanding the game more, and I was finally caught up with the speed, and I was the heaviest and strongest I've ever been, so that helped too. And I just I understood the scheme more and where I'm supposed to be, and I saw it. The game kind of slowed down for me. I got to see pulling linemen a lot easier and knowing where I'm supposed to drop, and just things kind of slowed down for me rather than my freshman sophomore year. Especially my freshman year, I was overwhelmed with the speed a little bit and the size of some guys, so I had to mature in that aspect. But going into the 2019 season, I didn't go in thinking like, oh, I need to have an All-American year, or this has to happen, all these accolades. I wasn't thinking about that at all. I was just going into that season and preparing myself to the best I could be, because I worked harder in the off season leading up to my junior year than I've ever worked before, and I made that commitment, and thank God that it showed on the field. But just kind of maturing and realizing that my discipline needs to be better and going into the season. And, it panned out to be great. But yeah, I would say that off season and just the maturity aspect of it is the reason that was such a big difference from the 2 years before.
And I'm really excited, Drew, because you talked about, going into 2019, you were the biggest and strongest you had been up to that point. I was looking at, some spring grades, and I think they had you at like 6'5", 6 foot and 5'8", 235 pounds. Yeah, I know. I wish I was 6'5" too. I would have went to the NFL if I was 6'5". So I said, I think they had you down at 6 foot and 5'8" and 235 pounds. How does that weight feel? Is that the heaviest that you have been now? I'm just curious about like where your weight progression has been.
Yeah, so actually, it's been a weird off season for me right now. I was planning on playing at 235 to 240. Like, I wanted to go into fall camp this year heavy, and I was on track for that. I was heavy early in March or whenever that was, and I actually got hurt in late February or March, and that kind of slowed the process up. And I realized then I was starting to gain some bad weight. So, I really didn't get to be healthy all the way through this off season, but so I did kind of shed some weight from that point because I was kind of putting some bad weight on. However, I'm gaining, and I'm pretty much close to where I weighed in 2019. But like I said, it hasn't been the ideal off season as far as being healthy and in the weight room and stuff like that, just because I've had to work around some things. But I will say this, that mentally and just where my mind is at, it is tenfold better than it has been in the past. And just where I'm at on the field and off the field, 2019, actually, I was dealing with a lot of personal stuff in my head, just with anxiety and just handling things off the field poorly and things like that. So, like I said, I didn't have the off season that I wanted to. Like I said, these past 2 years, but where my mind is at now is better than it ever has been. So I think that's a huge positive going into the season.
And I need to ask you, obviously, about the 2020 season impacted by COVID. Obviously, I know it's a really touchy subject. I'm sure it was very difficult. Can you just kind of let me into the difficulty and how you feel like you and the team both were able to navigate it to the best of your ability?
Yeah, but everyone knows that was a huge shock to everyone. Nobody knew how to handle it and to go around it. But we were just kind of taking it a day at a time and just trying to see what information was coming out and what we could do and for the summer and the off-season workouts and what we were restricted with and what we couldn't do. And so summer workouts were definitely different. A lot less people were there, and it kind of felt leading up to the 2020 fall that if we did have a season, it was going to be kind of forced. And at least I felt that way because I'm like, we didn't get our normal off season. We didn't get we weren't even like together ever. So it's like, if we just threw it together a season, I feel like it would have been forced. I don't feel like we would have been fully prepared. So I do think the decision to opt out of that season was a good decision for us. I certainly am grateful for it. Coming back to where now it was a normal off season for our team for this year. So I was happy that happy obviously in the moment that they canceled it, but I wish I could have played, but I think it's much better fitting to play this fall than it was last fall. So it's definitely been, like I said, 2 long off seasons, but we're ready for it now. So I'm happy how it went.
And I'm curious about this one, Drew, because I know, with the transfer portal, I know a lot of people, right? Like, oh, we're not going to have a season. Maybe I'll take the opportunity maybe to transfer up. For a guy like you that was an All-American, I have to think that maybe that was on the back of your mind at some points. Like, I'm sure there would have been a lot of schools, maybe Division I, maybe Power 5, that would have been like, yeah, Drew Seers could play here because look what he did on his level. Was that ever a thought in your mind at all about maybe taking that opportunity, or was it always Lindenwood no matter what?
No, it's always been Lindenwood. I've seen guys transfer to other schools and transfer up, even from like 1AA to SEC teams, or from D2 up to some Power 5 teams. But no, I'm here to finish what I started, and that's never a thought in my mind to go to a different team. We have a national championship to win this year, and I've grown so much with these guys, and this is my family. So I never had a thought to go to a different school. I'm ready to finish what we started this year. So
yeah, and I know you mentioned that you had the injury that kind of messed up the offseason a little bit, but just how excited are you? Just trying to talk about that team for a second, to be back with the guys, to be going towards a normal season. It's got to be refreshing after what you guys have endured.
Oh yeah, I feel like I'm about to play football for the first time again. I don't think I've seen this many people on our team excited for a season ever. Like, when Sunday night comes, which is the night before our first day of camp, it's gonna be like Christmas Eve. I'm just ready. I move in tomorrow. I'm ready to get this thing rolling and get back to it. So everybody is like a kid again trying to play football. So we're all excited and ready to go.
Awesome, man. And I have to tell you, Drew, I was watching your film a little bit, and I'm like, I think that you have great eyes. I feel like you're a very sound technician that just seems to always be in the right spot. But then working against the perimeter, like running the alley, doing all those types of things, working sideline to sideline or slot to slot, depending how you want to phrase it. I felt like you had plus athleticism. And a guy that popped in my head was James Laurinaitis. That was kind of got somebody that just, for me, I don't know why. I was just watching him, like, kind of reminds me a little bit of it. I love comps to a degree, but are there some guys for you, whether it was growing up or that play now, that for you watch a ton, try to emulate to a degree? Just who are some of your guys?
Everybody loves Ray Lewis, and Ray Lewis is probably one of the greatest linebackers of all time. There's no doubt about it. So I love watching him. But somebody that I've told in many interviews before that is the guy that I look up to, or I like to emulate some of his qualities, is Brian Cushing. And that guy is just a loose cannon, somebody who is not completely right mentally. And I think you need to have some of that to play linebacker. So I just love his edge and his passion for the game, and he's just not afraid to put his head in anything. And I think you need to do that to be a linebacker. So he's probably the main guy that I'm like, I like how he plays the game.
Man, I loved coaching at USC, and then obviously with Houston, man, when he took off his helmet and headbutted the offensive lineman, I'm like, people were like, that guy's an idiot. I'm like, I played linebacker too, so I'm like, I love that stuff.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's what I love that.
I mean, man, I always tell people, man, linebackers, like you just said, you got to have a little something loose, man. That's not for normal people. That's for some, you have to be a dog inside the trenches, inside the tackle box. So
no doubt about it.
I love the coach you mentioned, man. And only a couple more questions for you, Drew. Obviously, you're talking about, you guys have a national championship aspirations, obviously. That's a big goal for you. We talked a little bit about what you already have accomplished in your career. Looking forward to your final year, both from an individual and team perspective. What are some things that you want to accomplish to make it the perfect ending to your career?
I would say, well, team, obviously, everyone goes in with the thought that they want to get to the national championship. And I think it's been a blessing that we've had these past 2 years to really reflect on our 2019 season and be like, what did we do wrong? What did we do right? How are we going to improve for this upcoming season? And I just think that our leadership is the biggest thing that's improved. They always say good teams are led by coaches, but great teams are led by players. And we have a crazy amount of, or I'd say a solid amount of players on our team that are leaders. And this team is now player led, and that's what we've needed. And so look, obviously nothing's guaranteed we can say we want to go undefeated to a national championship. We're gonna have to take it week by week. But I will say that since Lindenwood has been in D2 or whatever, this is probably the closest thing we have to going all the way. And so I'm excited to see how this unfolds. It's really a family. We're all really tight and bonded together. And then as for me individually, I've never been a guy that's going to write down, I want 200 tackles or something crazy, or like whatever it is. I'm not a statistic guy or an accolade guy that I want All-American. All I know is for practice and games or whatever it is, I'm going to prepare to the best of my ability. Something I really want to focus on this year that I've talked about with people lately is I want to take it back to my mindset in a way that I had my freshman year, which my freshman year, I was undersized. I didn't know the plays really. And it was just, I was out there. All I was focused on doing was getting to the ball and just running to it. And that's how I had some success that freshman year. And I felt like I kind of lost that the past couple of years. So my mindset, again, is now I'm bigger, stronger, I'm much more knowledgeable, is get some of that, just get to the ball back in me and just hustle and make those hustle plays. So honestly, that's something I'm going to be working on in practice and in the season is getting to the ball and making it noticeable, but that I'm hustling more than anybody else on that field. So that's my mindset going into the season.
I love it. And kind of my last question is, obviously I wanted to reach out to you because I think I'm a believer that you are a guy that will have an opportunity to play on the next level. Obviously it's an NFL draft show. So my last question is, I know you just want to get back on the field. That's really your only priority and your only mindset right now, but just kind of looking forward to a second. How long has the NFL football player been a dream, a professional athlete? And when that ultimately does come, less than a year from now, in theory, how much of a blessing is that going to be after what you've had to go through the last couple of years?
It's man, it is crazy to think about that is a possibility. It's surreal, but like I said, I want to take it, like you said, I want to take it a day at a time and focus on this season. But when that comes, man, only God knows what's gonna happen. I'm gonna work as hard as I can to train for or do whatever opportunity is presented to me. But I mean, that's been a dream of mine since I was 5, since I even knew what football was. Every kid says they want to go play in the NFL, but there's been something in the back of my mind that I'm like, you could really do this. And I've had that confidence in me. And, I didn't know what path it would look like to get there, whether it be big D1, D2, whatever it looked like. Like I said, it's who knows what's going to happen. And there's nothing guaranteed, but whatever opportunity is given to me, I'm going to take full advantage of it. And I'm going to give it everything I got. So we'll see what happens, but it is very exciting. That's for sure.
And I look forward to that chapter of your career. But of course, we have one final season for Lindenwood University with the national title aspirations. Again, joined by Drew Seers, star All-American linebacker from Lindenwood. Drew, this was fantastic, man. I know it was a long time coming, but I really appreciate you taking some time today, man.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.